Happy Saturday, beautiful people. All right, happy Saturday, happy Saturday. It is May the 7th, 2022, day 102 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1120. Today we're going to read an Oahspe, picking up on page 72, and then we're going to jump over to the meditation book starting on page 103. All right, y'all, let's get going. Change of plans yesterday, so we back here. We didn't go out of town after all. So back in the same place, 15 minutes later than normal. All right, y'all. Father, thank you for another day as we search for truth and align our lives to it, that we may be a light in the world to all those on the path of truth. Hallelujah. All right, y'all. Page 72, chapter 8. Neph, God of earth, said, Behold, O I, son of Jehovah, by the power and magnificence of thy work am I bewildered in thy presence. Who can come so near the Almighty? But who but Jehovah hath attained beyond the power of thy soul? Who hath wisdom like unto thee, save the great Creator? Thou hast stretched the line beyond the moon, and by thy spoken word crushed in the side of the great earth as if it were nothing. Thou hast said, Arise, and the world moved at thy command. Yea, thou hast love and esteem of millions of gods and goddesses. And thou camest against the winds of the earth, saying, Turn ye hither, or turn ye thither, and lo, the winds move before thy words as an obedient child to its father's voice. Thou callest down the fire of heaven. It cometh at thy bidding, and thou sayest, O Jehovah, put thy hand under the heavens of the earth, and straightway a light and floor wide as the earth fly into the place of thy desire. Now, behold, thou hast said, O Jehovah, I surrender my commission. I have finished that which thou hast commanded me to do. Wherefore, O my soul hath great sorrow. Because thou hast labored 100 days and cleaned up the whole earth and her heavens, as one might sweep the floor of a house, I am bowed down in gratitude. Then son of Jehovah, said, O Jehovah, what have I done that thy son's love has come to me? So far as I have become one with thee, O thou everlasting Creator, so thou showest me plainer and plainer that I am nothing, and yet thy son heapeth praise upon me, seeing I am but as a figure moved by thy hand. Shall a man lose sight of the Almighty? Nevertheless, Jehovah, who so weak in love as I, thy servant, because thou hast quickened me in wisdom and power, so hast thou made my love as a place that can never be supplied to the full. How shall I find strength to leave this, thy son, on the far off earth? Will I not glory in his love and great esteem? And yet know I not that I will repine because I have him not with me. Mom, shalom. Audrey, shalom, shalom. Verse 6. Hear me, O Jehovah, for I will measure thy son with swiftness. Scarce 40,000 years raised up to Ethera, and yet thou hast made him God of heaven and earth. For 3,000 years struggled he in the battle against evil and darkness, and the broad heavens, in the hope, and the broad heavens in the Etherian. Hold on, let me read the whole sentence again. For 3,000 years struggled he in the battle against evil and darkness, and the broad heavens in the Etherian world looked on in sympathy and love and hope, because of his tenacity and wisdom and power. It was as one man fighting against a house on fire and the place filled with helpless babes. And yet, thy God ceased not, nor once rested and said, it is useless, but forever renewed the battle in new ways and stratagems. As a light showeth her, I'm sorry, as a light showeth better in the darkness, so did thy son Neph, O Jehovah, move the souls of even gods and goddesses in thy exalted heavens. And then came thy voice, O Father, saying, Go thou, O Alph, my son, and deliver the earth. And behold, the congregating of gods and goddesses, so eager to fly to the assistance of thy honored son. And God, Neph, said, one favor, O Aph, son of Jehovah, I ask of thee, which is that thou shalt tarry 3 days and honor the throne of God. For I will have it founded and ready, and my lords shall have the honor of speaking to thee face to face. Francis Shalom. Verse 10 on page 73. Aph, son of Jehovah, said, By thy permission, O Jehovah, I will tarry 3 days and 3 nights with thy Son, God of heaven and earth, and I will honor his throne and speak face to face with his lords, that I may win their love. In 3 days' time, the kingdom of God was founded and situated in atmosphere near and over the land of Japheth or China, but the plateau extended with 2 wings so as to embrace Shem and Ham, India and Egypt, and thither went the gods with their lords and attendants. So up here for Japheth, where it says China, today is pronounced China, right? So here it's spelled Chine apostrophe YA. Okay, I'll read it again. In 3 days' time, the kingdom of God was founded and situated in atmosphere near and over the land of Japheth, China. But the plateau extended with 2 wings so as to embrace Shem and Ham, India and Egypt, and thither went the gods with their lords and attendants. Now there were with God, Neph, 2 million spirits earthborn in the second resurrection, who have volunteered to serve another 2,000 years for the founding of the new kingdom of heaven, and they were well learned in official capacity, knowing how to found plateaus with factories, mansions, hospitals, nurseries, and all such places as are required in heaven for the newborn, so that God only had to say, Do ye thus or so, and it was done, and without error. And now from the host of Aph, son of Jehovah, there came before God 500,000 Ethereum volunteers who desired to remain 200 years with God and his host. God said to them, Behold, the earth has passed Triesta, and it is no longer lawful for any but earthborn to hold the place of sub-gods and sub-lords and marshals, and since ye are from different stars raised and from different Etherian circuits, what shall I do that ye may be honored and also profitable to yourselves in development? Gyativaya, chief spokesman for them, said, We desire to be laborers only. For what is 200 years to us? We pray thee, appoint us not to the Ehemes, for they are already advanced, but appoint us to the natives in the divisions of the earth, especially those who speak but little and who burrow in the ground. Neither do we desire a place in thy heaven, but we will abide with mortals, and in the first resurrection of those who are born in darkness. God said, Thou shalt remain, and thy people with thee. For since thou hast volunteered to leave thy high estate and come and dwell for one day on the lowest of all places, laboring for the blind and dumb, thou shalt be recompensed with love of millions in time to come. All right, so after one Dan, it has reference letter E, which says, this is only a sub-cycle Dan, which is why it endures only 200 years. Okay. Verse 17, page 73. Then God departed, and Ah, son of Jehovah, went with him, and they came into the midst of the kingdom of God, whereat they halted. And God said, here will I build my throne, and inasmuch as Sethines in the olden time called his place Horrid, so will I call my place Horrid also. And on earth it shall be called the mountain of God, for it shall be my home. So God stretched forth his hand to Jehovah, saying, throne of thy throne, O Father. And there came down from the heavens above a great light, and it settled around about the midst of the place of God and of Jehovah's Son. And presently the light gathered up of the atmosphere and substance, and made it shining and condensed. Whereupon the attendants who do such matters brought and laid the throne of God, and after fenced it around with pillars of fire, after the manner of Horrid of the ancient days. And God ascended and sat on the throne, and Off also sat on the right hand of God, and the four lords of the earth on the left hand. But the fifth Lord, Eolate, stood down at the foot, and he said, behold, the division of the earth that was mine is sunk beneath the sea. How then shall I sit on the throne of God? God said, since thy labor hath been taken from thee, thou art as a parable on the newly dead who have lost the earth, but have no place in heaven. Since the Essene serveth a time through the proxy of others, so shalt thou in that which I bestow upon thee. Know then, thou shalt sit on my right hand, for thou shalt be my assistant and vice God during the time of my sojourn, and after that, whatsoever thou wilt. Eolate said, thou hast honored me, O God, Jehovah's will be done. So God rose up, raising his hand, and said, O thou, all light, crown thou thy son, vice God of Horeb, for thine own glory forever. And as the light of Ethera descended into God's right hand, he shaped it into a crown and placed it on Eolat's head with the usual ceremony of such rank in heaven. And Eolat came and sat on the right hand of God, and in that same time, Oph, son of Jehovah, rose up, whereupon God and the Lords and all people whatsoever sat down, for the place was as if Jehovah had appeared in person. Off said, as a father is made to comprehend his own early life by looking on his infant son, so hast thou, O Jehovah, forever raised up before my eyes the images of times and conditions long past. In these thy lords, thou hast called me back to the time and place when first thou and thy son crowned me a lord and a vice god over one of the divisions of my native star. And my soul rose up to thee in fear and prayer, for I understood how unmindful men and angels are of the labor of gods and lords, and prone to rate themselves as chief of all created things. But thy voice, O Jehovah, came to me, saying, complain not, my son, against the self conceit of men and angels, nor of their criticisms of my gods and lords. For to such boasters do I provide trials, and they perceive not till they are encompassed therewith. Suffer them, therefore, within thy dominions to grow in their own glory. For I have sufficient labor for them, either on earth or in heaven. And I perceived thy wisdom, and I applied it through my angels. And when my people rose to the first resurrection and the second resurrection, behold, I knew where to place them, that they might prove themselves all in all. And thy light came upon me in my place, saying, Thou hast profited in the first lesson, so shalt thou comprehend the second, and even up to the Etherian heavens. Verse 26. Nevertheless, O Father, thou sufferest all things to harass me and perplex my soul, and I was filled with fear and reverence because of the great responsibility thou gavest unto my keeping. So great were my tribulations and trials that I called out to thee in thy holy place to remember all other gods and lords in thy whole universe. And thou saidest, Hear the words of thy Creator, thou, my God, my Son. For I created man to enter heaven as helpless as he entered earth life, and dependent on those above him, that he might comprehend the unity between high and low, strong and weak, light and darkness. And I placed him in my meals, wherein he should learn that, even as others grind for him, so should he grind for those beneath him. Oh, that's good. Oh, great spirit, peace and blessings to you. Verse 28. I'll read 27 again. That was good. And thou saidest, Hear the words of thy Creator, thou, my God, my Son. For I created man to enter heaven as helpless as he entered earth life, and dependent on those above him, that he might comprehend the unity between high and low, strong and weak, light and darkness. And I placed him in my meals, wherein he should learn that, even as others grind for him, so should he grind for those beneath him, just like babies that come into the world, right? The weaker comes to the stronger, the unity between both to help the weaker grow into a stronger person, right? And we can clearly see that cycle everywhere. For of what profit under the sun is it for my lords to come down from their liberty and glory in my Etherian firmament, and become lords over the grovelers in the flesh, and over the Essenes in darkness? Shall selfishness reign in heaven, and every one for himself? Have I not proved it on earth that the love of doing good works unto others is all that ensures a rich harvest of love in return? Because they stoop from their high estate in order to promote my children, which I created alive, are they not becoming the more one with me? Even so is all exaltation in heaven. For as I stoop down to the dumb earth and water and quicken them, making man, so have I stooped lower than can anything of all my universe. And they that do after my example, raising them up to make them have joy in life, are on the road to attain all power and wisdom and love. Son of Jehovah, said, I perceived thy wisdom, O Father, and thy power and wisdom came upon me tenfold. Then I sought forever after to go to the lowest and darkest places, but lo, when I had grown in thy judgment, thou spakest again to me, saying, O off my son, because thou hast found the key to unlock the door to the highest heavens, behold, thou art too mighty for small labor. Come, therefore, with thy command and I skipped the whole line. Come, therefore, with thy Creator, for I have a whole Etherian world at thy command, and thy wisdom and power are required at my hand. Let me see. I think this might be our title. Thou hast found the key to unlock the doors to the highest heavens. Okay. I'll read it again. O Off, my son, because thou hast found the key to unlock the doors to the highest heavens, behold, thou art too mighty for small labor. Come, therefore, with thy Creator, for I have a whole Etherian world at thy command, and thy wisdom and power are required at my hand. And I obeyed thy call, O Jehovah. And then again, after a season, thou callest me again and again, and madest my labors to extend into many Ethereal worlds. But I love to look back and glorify thee for my first lorddom, and to treasure up the millions of loves I found in those days. And again, O Father, hast thou blessed me to meet many millions of them in this pruning of the red star, the earth. Now thou hast called me to speak on the throne of thy God of earth. Alas, thy God has said, O son of Jehovah, come thou and honor my throne. Whereas, O Jehovah, I am the most honored of men and gods, because I have again opened my mouth before thee, and in thy name. All glory be to thee, O Jehovah, now and forever. Then son of Jehovah, sat down, and God signaled to the marshals who proclaimed freedom for 2 whole days. Thereupon the gods and goddesses of Oah's staff filed past the throne, and after them came the host of God, and then the host of the Lord's, for they all desired to pass near and look upon Oah and receive the signal of his blessing. And presently thereafter all the people joined in with the Essenars and sang a song of glory unto Jehovah in the all highest. And when it was finished, the multitude turned to recreation and social intercourse. All right, remember, intercourse here is just mingling amongst one another, not anything actually sexual, just social intercourse, social mingling. All right, we had 21 minutes. Okay, chapter 9. It's 17 chapters in this top part. And once we done, 17, once we done with the 17, which will probably be in like a couple days, then we'll go all the way back and we start reading that book that was below it. And that's actually shorter than this, so it'll probably take us maybe 3 days to read through that, possibly, maybe 2. Okay, chapter 9. When the time came, God called his proper officers, and they proclaimed his presence, whereupon the people came to order. And God said, even as it was before the submersion, so shall it now be, and ye shall fill the same places even as before, every one to the place provided. Nevertheless, from this time forth, all work in heaven and on earth shall be new, as if nothing had been. Let my lords and their attendants and their ushers prepare for their departure, and from such other volunteers as has come into my kingdom, they shall receive as they desire, and be assigned to labor suited to them, whether it be with mortals or with spirits in the first resurrection. And to my marshals, messengers, and Asaphs, hear ye the word of your God, which is that ye proceed throughout atmosphere, selecting and appropriating all suitable places for the spirits of the dead, and that ye apportion builders and workmen, and erect factories and schools and hospitals and nurseries, and all other suitable places adapted to receiving those of the first resurrection, as is done in all atmosphere in heavens. And all those who are thus received shall be called Essenes for the first 5 years. But after that, they shall be called, hold on, Essenes. Essenes. Maybe I've been saying it wrong. Okay, so it's okay. The first one, I need to pay attention to this. I've just been saying Essenes for both of them. Okay, so the first one is ES apostrophe YANS, but then it's the ES apostrophe SEANS. Okay, I'm gonna read it again. That's a real long sentence. It's towards the end. Okay. And to my marshals, messengers, and Asaphs, hear ye the word of your God, which is that ye proceed throughout atmosphere, selecting and appropriating all suitable places for the spirits of the dead, and that ye apportion builders and workmen, and erect factories and schools and hospitals and nurseries, and all other suitable places adapted to receiving those of the first resurrection, as is done in all atmosphere in heavens, and all who are thus received shall be called Esians for the first 5 years. But after that they shall be called Esians, signifying having separated from the corporal desire, being full residents of the S world, ES, the S or the spirit world. But those who will not become Essenes, being spirits of drooks, mortals, and hard bound to the earth, shall be called Druhas, signifying wandering spirits of darkness and of evil. And those who engraft themselves on mortals shall be called Fetals, signifying sucklings. And these names shall continue in heaven and on earth to the end of the world. And this right here seems to line up with Enoch chapter 15. Yeah, that's exactly what that said, right, Francis? I know we done read past that part already. If ye be faithful over the little things, I make you ruler over much. Beautiful. Okay, so Enoch, if you're familiar with the book of Enoch chapter 15 talks about the wandering spirits on the earth and where they come from. So this seems like that. So if they're not, well, first of all, right after they die, if whoever's in charge of those who first pass away, if they don't catch hold of them real soon and lead them away from this particular realm, they're going to find their loved ones and engraft them and engraft their spirits onto them. We kind of talked about that a little bit yesterday. That was good. I'll read it again. And it's a long verse. And to my marshals, messengers, and Asaphs, hear ye the word of your God, which is that ye proceed throughout atmosphere, selecting and appropriating all suitable places for the spirits of the dead, and that ye apportion builders and workmen, and erect factories and schools, and hospitals and nurseries, and all other suitable places, adapted to receiving those of the first resurrection, as is done in all atmosphere in heavens, and all those who are thus received shall be called Esians for the first 5 years. But after that they shall be called Essenes, signifying having separated from the corporal desire, being full residents of the S world. But those who will not become Essenes, being the spirits of the Druk mortals and hard bound to the earth, shall be called Druhas, signifying wandering spirits of darkness and of evil. And those who engraft themselves on mortals shall be called Fetals, signifying sucklings. And these names shall continue in heaven and on earth to the end of the world, wherein ye may perceive the fault of leniency of the gods and lords of old. Be ye circumspect in these times, for nevermore shall the rod of water chasten the living earth. That's like when in the regular Bible, y'all said that hey,
toothbrush. I think the boys took mine.
extra one, checking that box right there. I had a pack of extra ones, but they may have took the whole pack and ain't no telling. One of them probably got 2 toothbrushes. I don't know. You check the front desk or just stop on your way. Yeah. All right. Wherein ye may perceive.
I think that Jeep needs gas too.
It's on half a tank.
It's on half a tank?
Yeah.
I'll be straight.
Yeah. Yeah, you should. All right. Wherein ye may perceive the fault of leniency of the gods and lords of old. Be ye circumspect in these times, for nevermore shall the rod of water chasten the living earth. And so in the Bible we read that God put his bow in the sky to remind us that he will never again flood the earth with water, right? This is what they call the rod of water to chasten the living earth. Maybe we might use that in the title. I don't know. Okay, verse 5. When God thus completed all his commandments, and the people were ready to depart, the Essenars and the trumpeters sang and played a hymn adapted to the new heaven and new earth. And when this was finished, Oph, son of Jehovah, spake, saying, Behold, the light of the high heaven opens. Thy son, O Jehovah, longeth for a great labor. I go on a journey farther than 10,000 sons. Theatizi, thy daughter, O Jehovah, and goddess of 1,000 worlds, have set apart to join two corporal stars in a far off heaven, whereupon 1,000,000,000 shall be delivered into spirit life in a single day. With her, by thy will and power, O Jehovah, I go. But yet let not these, thy gods and lords, and their hosts, surmise I will forget one single soul of all that are here. And when the next day appeareth, behold, I will return to them and enjoy a portion of their sweet love. Off is done. They kind of sound like, and he walks off, say off is done. And now the chief descended and sat at the foot of the throne, and God, suffused with tears, came down and took his hand, saying, Behold, he who is greatest maketh himself least of all. Arise, O Aph, son of Jehovah, and crowned immortal God of the ark of Noah, son of the Almighty, arise and go thy way. And just in case you forgot, remember those with the title of God also have the title of son and daughter. It's like it's interchangeable. So, like in the Bible, we'll read it in singular form in the New Testament, and in the Old Testament it's also singular form, but it means a host. So in the Old Testament, you will see that when Yah speaks of his son, all the way through the Old Testament, there's not one time where in the Old Testament where Yah refers to his son and it's a single person. It's always the nation of Israel, multiple people, right? To whereas in the New Testament, they changed that son to one single person, right? What has changed, right? And a lot of times people don't pick up on it because they don't read it enough to catch what's really happening. Okay. So also, if you have the title God, that means you're currently ruling the earth. Or if you have the title goddess, that means you are currently ruling, right? So throughout the course of time, there have been different gods, right? Or different sons or different daughters that have ruled either the earth or other worlds, wherever it was. But that's the title that they carry, right? And you don't just get that title. Like a lot of people think, oh, I'm a god. No, you're not. First of all, I can still see you here, my G. You have not attained that position yet, right? Because yeah, no, you haven't. I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying here, but if we want to be technical about it, you're not, right? You're just a mortal at this point. We'll just call it that. Would be nice. Okay, let's go back here. Yeah, so those with that title, and you will notice, like if you came in late and it seems like the names of the gods keep changing, is because it is, right? And that it's giving you every section of time where each god ruled and what happened under their watch, under their command, right? Okay. I read verse 7 again. And now the chief descended and sat at the foot of the throne, and God, suffused with tears, came down and took his hand, saying, Behold, he who is greatest maketh himself least of all. Arise, O Aph, son of Jehovah, and crowned immortal God of the ark of Noah, son of the Almighty, arise and go thy way. So Aph rose up, and shaking hands with God and his lords, descended to the borders beyond the foot of the pillars of fire, and his host with him, being 10,000,000 in number, were the proper persons had in readiness, and ascending Otavan with wings, wherein they all entered. At a given signal, the Otavan started upward, but toward the east, and swift as a shooting star, It sped forth and presently disappeared in the distance. Where we at? Okay, we'll pause right here at chapter 10. We'll pick it back up at chapter 10 tomorrow. This is good. I really want to keep reading this, but we're going to pause. And we'll pause because I'll be reading to the end of the time today. All right. Let's hop over to the meditation book, page 103. Y'all be halfway through the book. Yeah, we'll be done with this in no time. All right, but let me show you real quick. It's two of them. The little Kabbalion book came with my printed copy anyway. I've been had the Audible version and the Kindle version, but I figured let me go ahead and get the printed one. So this one came, but the little one that we're going to read right before this is the Initiates of the Flame, and I forgot to pull that out of my box. But yeah, the Initiates of the Flame, and that one is by Manly P. Hall, and this one is the Kabbalion by the three initiates, right? Three initiates who cared not to be named. But the wisdom that you found in here, nevertheless, oh my gosh, it is life-changing. All right. So we'll get to that. Just in case you haven't gotten it, just go to the community section and you will see the link that I posted where you can get it. Oh, why are you knocking so light? I'm like, who is this?
No.
What? This one? Hold on, y'all. Hello?
Yeah, it's
Hello?
one of these. It's one of these.
Hello? Babe, call my mama. Ma, are you still up here? Or is one of the kids calling from your phone? Hold on, y'all. I'm just checking. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. I just want to make sure everything was okay. So it's one of the kids.
I'll see you when I get back.
Okay. All right, son. Love you.
Love you too. Peace.
Oh. Okay, kind of scared me real quick. Okay. Tell them jokers, chill out. Okay. Sorry, y'all. False alarm. Children are with Nani. We were supposed to go out of town last night, but there was a change in plans, but they still get to hang out at Nani's house. So I thought something was wrong. So I know she was here, but then she trying to call me, but it was one of the kids using the upstairs phone. Okay. Page 103. They're calling again. Ma, can you holler up the stairs? They know I'm live first thing in the morning. They're calling again. Okay, I just sent them a voicemail. It's one of the boys calling. Okay. All right, y'all. Down at the bottom of the page, the last paragraph, it's entitled The Therapeutic Value of Meditation on page 103. Okay. The main source of unhappiness, restlessness, and agitation in the human heart is due to the fact that human existence is unfulfilling. No matter how much money one has, no matter how much power one has, no matter how many parties one attends, no matter how many sensual pleasures are indulged, or how much fame one has, it is never enough to allow one to feel lasting contentment. This is because the innermost desire of the heart, the desire to experience the boundless bliss and peace of the higher self, and higher self is capitalized, letting you know that it's talking about Yah, right? The higher self, the great spirit, the creator of all the heavens and all the earths, right? Has been misunderstood. I'll read that again. This is because the inmost desire of the heart, the desire to experience the boundless bliss and peace of the higher self, has been misunderstood. The mind and senses can never be quenched in the world of ordinary human experience. In reality, you are seeking the inner peace and supreme love which transcends all human bounds, and due to ignorance, you try to fulfill this need by acquiring possessions and having relationships with other human beings. In essence, you have forgotten your true self, and self is capitalized, letting you know that self is talking about your spirit, your true self, not the flesh, not the vehicle that your spirit drives around, your innermost being, your true self. You've forgotten who you really are. In reality, you are seeking the inner peace and supreme love which transcends all human bounds, and due to ignorance, you try to fulfill this need by acquiring possessions and having relationships with other human beings. In essence, you have forgotten your true self and have accepted the body and personality as your true essence. This predicament is the source of all mental aberrations and negative thoughts which lead to negative feelings such as anger, jealousy, vanity, envy, hatred, greed, conceit, covetousness, lust, selfishness, etc. Since the true state of the soul is peace, contentment, and bliss, any of the negative thoughts and feelings which are experienced are in reality a separation from the truth. I'll say that again. Since the true state of the soul is peace, contentment, and bliss, any of the negative thoughts and feelings which are experienced are in reality a separation from the truth. These negative thoughts rob a human being from the possibility of discovering true peace and contentment. They lead to experiences of degraded human existence and are the cause of animosity, violence, vices, and anguish in human relations. In their intensified form, these negative thoughts and feelings cause mental illness, addictions, and various forms of psychosis, and after the death of the physical body, lead a soul to experience hellish experiences in the astral plane. And for those of you who can go out of body at will and interact with the astral plane, we know it ain't nothing to play with, especially if you haven't been purged of all your inadequacies and vices, right? Meditation allows you to go beyond the ignorance of ordinary human existence and to gain strength of will to practice virtuous living. It calms the mind so that it can reach the level of intuitional awareness wherein the higher reality of existence is to be discovered. Meditation is like a churning process which cleanses the mind just as a washing machine cleanses clothes. Therefore, meditation is the provenance of peace, contentment, goodwill, and love. If the mind has not experienced the joy of true meditation experience, it has not truly experienced its higher existence, and therefore it remains in the degraded state of being susceptible to the frailties and weaknesses of human desire. This state makes it possible to experience the frustrations, sorrows, and disappointments of human existence. Therefore, the meditative process alleviates human pain and suffering by leading the practitioner to the true source of contentment and happiness. One who has experienced the truth, which is discovered through meditation, will not be susceptible to the adversities of life. Rather, he or she will be in a better position to deal with negative emotions and to solve problems rationally without attachment or regret. One who has experienced the truth, which is discovered through meditation, will not have a covetous personality because he or she has begun to discover the true source of contentment in the heart. So, the meditative experience, which allows one to discover the inner reaches of the heart, is the source of sanity, intellectual expansion, compassion.
Oh, now.
Okay.
Oh, love y'all.
All right, love you too. Drive safe. Let me go back. So the meditative experience, which allows one to discover the inner reaches of the heart, is the source of sanity, intellectual expansion, compassion, goodwill, supreme peace, and boundless bliss. And that, my beautiful people, is the end of section 1 in the meditation book. I told y'all we was halfway through, right? Now we start part 2. Part 2, the ancient history of meditation. All right. The ancient history of meditation. And remember, meditate. Don't be triggered by the word meditation. If you triggered by the word meditation, you probably don't even read the Bible either, right? Remember, because what does Yah tell us about meditation? He said, meditate on my word day and night that you may make your way successful before you, right? That's what he told Joshua in Joshua chapter 1, right? But meditation has always been a thing. It's a time of reflection and prayer and to ponder and to roll things over in the mind, right? And learn how to apply them to your life on a daily basis. It's a process that takes place and should carry you throughout your entire life. So it's good that we learn how to do it early. A lot of us just learning how to do it now. We 43 years, well, at least me, I'm 43 years in. I learned how to really do it at 42 years old. Is that a shame? Could be not. Some people don't learn how to do it till they twice my age. Is that a shame? Could be not. I didn't walk their path of life. And they didn't walk mine, right? So, but I'm glad we're here now. Started from the bottom, now we're here. All right, we're still at the bottom though. We gradually moving. Let me stop. Okay. The ancient history of meditation. The practice of meditation has received much publicity due to the resurgence of interest in Eastern religions, so much so that most people in modern times consider the practice of meditation as having originated in India or China. However, a deeper research into ancient Egyptian mythology and philosophy reveals that the practices which are known today as yoga were practiced thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt. These practices included meditation and vegetarianism, as well as other forms of yoga which survive to this day. Perhaps the earliest record, sorry, Perhaps the earliest recorded meditation practice and instruction comes from the teaching of the destruction of mankind, which is inscribed in hieroglyphic text on the walls of a chamber in the tomb of King Seti I of ancient Egypt, who lived between 2000 and 1250 BCE or earlier. Robin, Shabbat Shalom. It describes the words of power, visualization, and posture elements of meditation and the procedure for practicing the meditation. A compendium of the myth is included below because it contains important mystical teachings in reference to mystical psychology and the nature of human consciousness. Following the compendium, there would be, excuse me, following the compendium, there would be a gloss or brief commentary to elucidate the mystical implications of the myth. A meditation based on the teaching of the myth will be presented in the final section of this manual. Okay, so it has a little hieroglyph right here, and it says from the hieroglyphic from the hieroglyphic text entitled The History of Creation. And under it, I'm going to show it to you in a second. It says, Ra in the company of gods and goddesses in the bark of millions of years. Here is the story of Ra, the god who was self-begotten and self-created. He created men and women from his own being. Okay, so when we first started this book, it let you know like all the different creation stories and the different gods that they use as God. It changes depending on what culture you come from, right? But it's the same story being told over and over again, but just with their particular names of their gods and stuff like that. Okay. Here is the story of Ra, the God who was self begotten and self created. He created men and women from his own being. He assumed the sovereignty over men and women and gods and all things, the one God. Upon rising for the first time out of Nu, the primeval ocean, Ra emitted from himself Shu, which is air and space or ether, and Tefnut, which is moisture. These gave these two gave rise to Geb, which is earth or physical matter, and Nut, which is the sky or heaven. Ma'at is the daughter of Ra. It is said that Ma'at is the foundation of creation and that Ma'at is what everything is based on, since Ra stands in his boat of creation on the pedestal of Ma'at. And the definition of Ma'at is whenever you see Ma'at, you will see you will either see a woman holding balance scales, kind of like what we use in the legal system today, represents balance scales. Um, you will see it you will see her with wings, right? It's still representing the same thing, balance scales or righteousness, judgment, right? That's what ma'at means, right? But they also made her a character. They made ma'at a character, a female character, or the feminine energy. Ma'at is the daughter of Ra, and it is said that Ma'at or balance or righteousness is the foundation of creation, and that Ma'at or balance and righteousness is what everything is based on, since Ra stands in his boat of creation on the pedestal of Ma'at or on the pedestal of righteousness. Okay, the next section is called The Destruction of Evil Men and Women from the hieroglyphic text entitled The Destruction of Evil Men and Women. Now, men and women were speaking words of complaint, saying, Behold, his majesty, life, strength, and health to him has grown old, and his bones have become like silver, and his members have turned into gold, and his hair is like unto real lapis lazuli. His Majesty heard the words of complaint which men and women were uttering, and His Majesty, life, strength, and health to him, said unto those who were in his train, Cry out and bring me my eye, and Shu, and Tefnut, and Seb. Seb is also interchangeable with Geb, right? So Geb or Seb. And Nut, and the father gods, and the mother gods who were with me, even when I was in Nu, side by side with my God Nu. Let there be brought along with my eye its ministers, and let them be led to me here secretly, so that men and women may not perceive them coming, and may not therefore take to flight with their hearts. Come thou with them to the great house, and let them declare their plans fully. For I will go from Nu into the place wherein I brought about my own existence, and let those gods be be brought unto me there. Now the gods were drawn up on each side of Ra, and they bowed down before his majesty until their heads touched the ground. And the maker of men and women, the king of those who have knowledge, spake his words in the presence of the father of the firstborn gods. And the gods spoke in the presence of his majesty, saying, Speak unto us, for we are listening to your words. Then Ra spoke unto Nu. Nu is spelled N-U, not N-E-W. It's N-U. Then Ra spoke unto Nu, saying, Zero, you firstborn God from whom I came into being. I'm sorry, I said zero. Okay, it's supposed to be O, but it's typed like the number zero, which is why I was like, okay. Okay, so it should be the letter O, not the number zero. Okay, my bad. O you firstborn God, from whom I came into being, O ye gods of ancient time, my ancestors, take ye heed to what men and women are doing. For behold, those who were created by my eye are uttering words of complaint against me. Tell me what ye would do, in the matter, and consider this thing for me, and seek out a plan for me, for I will not slay them until I have heard what ye shall say to me concerning it. Then the majesty of Nu to son Ra spoke, saying, You are the God who are greater than he who made thee. You are the sovereign of those who were created with thee. Thy throne is set, and the fear of thee is great. Let thine eye go against those who have uttered blasphemies against thee. And the majesty of Ra said, Behold, they have betaken themselves to flight into the mountain lands, for their hearts are afraid because of the words which they have uttered. The gods spoke in the presence of his majesty, saying, Let thine eye go forth, and let it destroy for thee those who revile thee with words of evil. For there is no eye whatsoever that can go before it and resist thee, and resist thee and it when it journeyeth in the form of Hetharu. Excuse me, let me get a sip of water. Okay. Thereupon this goddess went forth and slew the men and women who were on the mountains and desert lands. And the majesty of this God said, come in peace, O Hetharu, for the work is accomplished. Then this goddess said, You have made me to live, for when I gained the mastery over men and women, it was sweet to my heart. I should like to continue feeding upon men and women. Then the majesty of Ra said, I myself will be the master over them as their king, and I will destroy them. And it came to pass that the she of the offerings, Hetharu, waded about in the night season in their blood, beginning at Sutan Hinin. Then the majesty of Ra spake, saying, Cry out, and let there come to me swift and speedy messengers who shall be able to run like the wind. And straightway these messengers were brought unto him. And the majesty of this God spake, saying, Let these messengers go to Abu, and bring unto me mandrakes in great numbers. And when these mandrakes were brought unto him, the majesty of this God gave them to Sekhet, the goddess who dwelleth in Anu, Heliopolis, to crush. And behold, when the maid servants were bruising the grain for making beer, these mandrakes were placed in vessels which were to hold the beer, and some of the blood of men and women who had been slain. Now they made 7,000 vessels of beer. Now when the majesty of Ra, the king of the south and the north, had come with the gods to look at the vessels of beer, and behold, the daylight had appeared after the slaughter of men and women by the goddess in their season. As she sailed up the river, the majesty of Ra said, It is good. It is good that she has displayed the power of righteousness and punished the evil ones. Nevertheless, I must protect men and women against her. And Ra said, Let them take up the vases and carry them to the place where the men and the women were slaughtered by her. Then the majesty of the king of the south and the north, in the threefold beauty of the night, caused to be poured out these vases of beer, which make men to lie down, sleep, and the metals of the four heavens, the south, north, west, and east of the sky, were filled with beer, divine nectar, by reason of the souls of the majesty of this God. And it came to pass that when this goddess arrived at the dawn of day, she found these heavens flooded with nectar, and she was pleased thereat, and she drank the beer and blood, and her heart rejoiced, and she became drunk, and she gave no further attention to men and women. Then said the majesty of Ra to this goddess, come in peace, O Amit, most beautiful one. And thereupon beautiful women came into being in the city of Amit, or Amim. And the majesty of Ra spake in homage to this goddess, saying, Let there be made for her vessels of the beer which produceth sleep at every holy time and season of the year, and they shall be in number according to the number of my handmaidens. And from their early time unto now, men have been wont to make on the occasion of the festival of Hetharu vessels of the beer, which make them to sleep in number according to the number of the handmaidens of Ra. And I learned a little bit about like the mandrake and the mandrake root. It's a pretty powerful thing. And people who, let's say, use magic, they use it a lot, right? But there are people who use the mandrake for wicked purposes as well, right? Y'all should look into it. We hear a little bit about the mandrake with the fighting going on between Leah and Rachel as well, right? And don't really say too much. It's just that they, she bought Joseph with a few mandrakes so he could sleep with her that night. It's a little more to the mandrake, y'all. And the majesty of Ra spake unto this goddess, saying, I am smitten with the pain of the fire of sickness, whence cometh to me this pain? And the majesty of Ra said, I live, but my heart has become exceedingly weary with existence with these men and women who have forgotten me and become boastful, prideful, and full of themselves. I have slain some of them, but there is a remnant of worthless ones. For the destruction which I wrought among them was not as great as my power. Then the gods who were in his following said unto him, Be not overcome by thy inactivity, for thy might is in proportion to thy will. And the majesty of this God, Ra, said unto the majesty of Nu, My members are weak and have suffered pain since primeval time, and I shall not recover until another period comes. And the majesty of the God Nu said, Son Shu, be thou the eye for thy father, and assist him. And you, goddess Nut, place him on your back. And the goddess Nut said, How can this be then? O my father Nu. Hail, said Nut to the god Nu. And the goddess straightway became a cow, and she set the majesty of Ra upon her back. And when these things had been done, men and women saw the god Ra upon the back of the cow. And these men and women said, Remain with us, and we will overthrow thine enemies who speak words of blasphemy against thee and destroy them. Remember, this is one of the earliest stories that they're retelling here. Alazar Shalom. Then his majesty Ra set out for the great house, and the gods who were in the train of Ra remained with the men and women. During that time, the earth was in darkness, and when the earth became light again, and the morning had dawned, the men came forth with their bows and their other weapons, and they set their arms in motion to shoot at the enemies of Ra. Then said the majesty of this God, Your transgressions of violence are placed behind you, for the slaughtering of the enemies is above the slaughter of sacrifice. Thus came into being the slaughter of enemies. And the majesty of this God said unto Nut, I have placed myself upon the back. I have placed myself upon my back in order to stretch myself out. And the majesty of this God said, Call to me the God Jehudi, and one brought the God to him forthwith. And the majesty of this God said unto Jehudi, Let us depart to a distance from heaven, from my place, because I would make light, and the God of light, and the Tuat, and the land of the Goths. You shall write down the things which are in it, and you shall punish those who are sinful, that is to say, the workers who have worked iniquity, rebellion, unrighteousness. Through thee I will keep away the servants whom this heart of mine loathes. You shall be in my place, Asti, Ast, throne or support, and you shall therefore be called, O Jehudi, the Asti of Ra. Moreover, I give thee power to send forth light. Thereupon shall come into being the ibis, or Jacobi, or the bird of Jehudi. I moreover give thee power to lift up thine hand before the two companies of the gods who are better than you, and what you do shall be fairer than the work of the god Ken, Khen, the work of the god Ken. Therefore shall the divine bird of Jehudi come into being. Moreover, I give thee power to embrace the two heavens with thy beauties and with thy rays of light. Therefore shall come into being the moon god of Jehudi. Moreover, I give thee power to drive back the Hanibu, the unrighteous northerners. Therefore shall come into being the dog-headed ape, Anan of Jehudi, and he shall act as governor for me. Moreover, you are now in my place in the sight of all those who see thee and who present offerings to thee, and every being shall ascribe praise unto thee, O you who are God. We'll be at an hour and 5 minutes. Let me see. Let me finish reading this little section right here. It's the story of Hetheru and Jehudi and gloss on the destruction of men and women, which is really like 3 paragraphs. So we're going to finish this and then we'll pause. Okay, the story of Hetheru and Jehudi. Some say that Hetheru, the goddess of beauty, the eye of Ra, transformed herself into the form of a lioness or lynx and killed the evil people who plotted against the Lord of all. Having killed all those who were evil, she forgot her true identity and became addicted to the taste of human blood. She continued to kill everyone she could find as she roamed the earth. Then, seeing that humankind would soon come to an end, Ra sent the messenger of wisdom, Jehudi, to bring his daughter back. Straightway, Jehudi transformed himself into a baboon and found Hetheru. At first, she threatened to devour him, but he cleverly enticed her into listening to the divine stories of gods and goddesses. He told her about Ra, her father, and reminded her of her beautiful human form. He spoke of her glory as the eye of Ra and the honor which the people of Egypt bestowed upon her. Gradually, her desire for blood and killing dwindled, and she began to desire to regain her former place as the mighty goddess of beauty and passion. Thus, Jehudi led her back to Egypt and back to her rightful place among the pantheon of gods and goddesses. The next section, gloss on the destruction of evil men and women. The destruction of evil men and women, myth of Hetheru and Jehudi, is extremely important teaching in reference to the nature of human consciousness, the source of the human soul, and the way and process of spiritual enlightenment. Let me read that again. Remember, all these stories that they teach you and tell you is to remind you about you and who you are and the process that it takes for you to be enlightened and to return to your former self. Remember who you are. Remember, we're here. Earth is school for the spirits, right? You start off small and you should grow big. As you grow in form, your spirit shall also grow in wisdom and knowledge. So where when it's time for your physical body to depart from your spirit, it's time for the car to go ahead and, retire. You should be graduating and not having to come back and do it again. The destruction of evil men and women, myth of Hetheru and Jehudi, is extremely important teaching in reference to the nature of human consciousness, the source of the human soul, and the way and process of spiritual enlightenment. There are several variations in the ancient Egyptian myths relating to the eye. One tells that the eye of Ra, I'm sorry. One tells that the eye left Ra and went into creation and was lost. Ra, which represents the divine self or the spirit, the divine self, sent Jehudi, which is wisdom, to find the eye. I'm sorry, let me read it again. Okay. Ra, the divine self, sent Jehudi, wisdom, to find the eye, individual soul, and bring it back. Okay, so I'm mixing up stories. Let me stop elaborate my stuff before I finish reading it. Okay, so here with this story, Ra, the divine self, would represent Yah, right? Jehudi, which is wisdom, which the church will call the Holy Spirit, was sent to find the eye, the part of the body of Ra that was lost, which is the individual soul, right? Okay, I read it again. There are several variations in the ancient Egyptian myths relating to the eye. One tells that the eye left Ra and went into creation and was lost. Ra, divine self, sent Jehudi, wisdom, to find the eye, which is the individual soul, and bring it back. It was through the magic and after magic, it has wisdom teachings. It was through the magic wisdom teachings of the god Jehudi that the eye realized who it was and agreed to return to Ra. Upon its return, however, it found that Ra had replaced it with another. In order to pacify it, Ra placed it on his brow in the form of a uraeus serpent where it could rule the world. One variation of the story holds that the eye left Ra and went to Nubia in the form of a lioness or lynx, Hetheru, in her aspect as the destroyer of evil and unrighteousness. When Ra heard this, he sent the Nubian god Ari Nefer, a form of Shu, and Jehudi to bring the eye back. They took the form of baboons, symbol of wisdom, and soon found the eye near the mountain of the sunrise where Asar was born. The eye refused to leave because it learned to enjoy its new existence. It was destroying those who had committed sins or plotted against Ra while on earth. Jehudi worked his magic on the eye and brought it back to Ra. Another variation of the story holds that Ra sent Shu and Tefnut in search of the eye. The eye resisted and in the struggle shed tears, and from the tears grew men. This is a clever play on words because the word for tears, rimtu, that fell from the eyes of Ra, and for the word men, reth or rethu, having similar sounds in ancient Egyptian language. And right here, it also with REM2, it shows the hieroglyph for REM2, and it also shows the hieroglyph for Reth. It's kind of small, and if you don't have the book, I don't know if you can see that. It's probably kind of blurry right here. The first one is REM2, and the bottom one is Reth. Hold on, I'm going to show the Facebook first. It looks kind of blurry. All right, I'll show it up here. Rethu, Reth. All right. Okay, we'll pause because this keeps going on about the eye, and it gives this the bigger hieroglyph, which we'll get into it not tomorrow, but it's also translated all the lines. Let me see. Maybe I should just read this since it already started. Okay, let's finish reading about the eye. Yeah, let's finish reading about the eye. It'll be a few more minutes. I'm sorry, y'all, but let's just keep it together. Okay. Below, sample of the actual text from the ancient Egyptian scripture of the myth of Hetheru and Jehudi and the glorious light meditation instruction. And I just showed you the block of hieroglyphs. So I'm just going to translate it. I'm not going to read the Egyptian words. I'm just going to read the translation of the Egyptian words because it has the hieroglyph, the Egyptian words, and then it has the English translation. I'm just going to read the English translation of all of it. Okay. Whoever in the heart of Jehudi reads words, these for Ra, cleansing presence, his purification, 7, days 3, to be done by clergy and men and women alike. Wherefore, reading, done divine figure, form these, do ritual right. So it's the same way, like if you're reading Hebrew, it's like, well, it's backwards, but it seems like they translate it to English, but they didn't put it into proper English structure where it reads like a fluent sentence. You just got to figure it out. Okay. Let me just start it again. Okay. Whoever in heart of Jehudi reads words these for Ra, cleansing presence, his purifications, 7, days 3 to be done by clergy and men and women alike. Wherefore reading, done divine, figure, form, these do ritual right. Read body, do make stand, protection, legs surrounded by, expansion, and eyes, mouth, body parts, all of the same person, not passed by, going away body. Now words to be spoken by people. Body is like Ra's day, birth. He is not diminishing objects, not wisdom or diminishing house of person, bound, righteousness, millions. Okay, so it's gonna give you a better explanation as I keep reading. The relationship of tears to men symbolizes the idea that humankind is the expression of the desire of the divine self or the creator, the great spirit, Yah, to have experiences in the realm of time and space. Further, tears are a symbol of human experience. It implies that human experience is a sorrowful condition because consciousness has degraded itself to the level of gross, limited human experience in the form of an individual ego as opposed to the expansive, limitless self. This contraction this contraction in consciousness is what allows the ego to emerge as an individual and distinct personality out of nowhere, just as a dream personality emerges out of nowhere. Instead of knowing itself as the immutable soul, the soul sees the ego and the world of time and space as the reality. This development would be like the ocean, forgetting that it is the ocean and believing itself to be one of the waves. Oh, that's good. It just said we forget that we are really spirits and we think that our human experience is it, right? It said that would be just like the ocean, forgetting it's the ocean and believing that it was one of the waves. Let me read this again. Bruh, listen. Instead of knowing itself as the immutable soul, we are the immutable soul. Instead of knowing itself as the immutable soul, the soul sees the ego and the world of time and space as the reality. This development would be like the ocean, forgetting that it is the ocean and believing itself to be one of the waves. Therefore, instead of seeing itself as encompassing all the waves, it is concerned with its transient experience as an individual wave and with comparing itself to other waves. Life is sorrowful from the standpoint of wisdom because even conditions that appear to be pleasurable are in reality setting the issue. I'm sorry. Life is sorrowful from the standpoint of wisdom because even conditions that appear to be pleasurable are in reality setting the individual up for disappointment and frustration later on because no positive situation can last indefinitely. Also, the pursuit of worldly pleasure and pain sets up mental impressions that will survive the death of the body and lead the soul to further incarnations in search of fulfillment, kind of like our unfounded fears. So where we come into this world, like me, I have a fear of heights. Where did that come from? Definitely didn't come from this life, right? It whatever happened to me before was impressed upon my soul. Tragic things, it literally like a tattoo is imprinted in your flesh. Tragic things are imprinted in your soul and they carry on with you for as long as you have to keep coming here until you pass this class, right? And it just builds. So also, the pursuit of worldly pleasures and pain sets up mental impressions that will survive the death of the body and lead the soul to further incarnations in search of fulfillment. Therefore, the sages say that all life is painful to the wise. This is why the yoga philosophy emphasizes going beyond both pleasure and pain in order to transcend the bondage to time and space. This can be accomplished by turning away from the world, which is illusory, and seeking to discover the self, right? Or discover your spirit. The masses of people who do not have spiritual sensitivity put up with the world and its ups and downs due to lack of reflectiveness. Having been taught from their youth by family and society to look for happiness in the world, They do not know any better. Through the development of wisdom and reflection, the aspirant can develop an intuition which transcends pleasure and pain and move beyond the world of ordinary human experience as a source of happiness. The following ancient Egyptian teachings highlight the idea of the sorrowfulness of ordinary human experience and urge the aspirant to live according to the teachings of virtue and wisdom in order to avoid the sufferings of life. Through the story of the eye, very important mystical teachings are being conveyed. The eye, Ujat, is a symbol of intuitional vision. Also, it represents the desire of the divine to go into itself, creation, and the subsequent forgetfulness that ensues. The resistance of the eye to return to the divine abode is a symbol of the predicament of ordinary people who, through ignorance and intense desire, detest the idea of even considering the spiritual values of life because their hearts or their minds, and it has minds in parentheses after hearts, because your heart is your mind is your heart, right? The resistance to the eye to return to the divine abode is a symbol of the predicament of ordinary people who, through ignorance and intense desire, detest the idea of even considering the spiritual values of life because their hearts, minds are consumed with passion. They are consumed with the desire to experience the pleasures of material existence. Having created the universe in itself, the Supreme Being sent its eye or consciousness into creation. Consciousness then became lost in creation and became the souls of human beings and all of life forms, forgetting its true self. The I, lost in creation, is the human soul, which is caught up in the cycle of birth, death, birth, reincarnation, due to the forgetfulness and distraction, ignorance of its true nature. The Supreme Being, Ra, sent out its messenger of wisdom, Jehudi, in the forms of Metanetter, ancient scriptures of wisdom, and Shai, spiritual preceptor, Guru, to instruct the eye in reference to its true nature. Having remembered who it was in reality, the eye then returned to its rightful place, right? And that's like the left eyebrow and the right eyebrow. A lot of people see it and think, oh my God, the Illuminati. It's because you're ignorant. Nobody taught you any better. Jen, good morning. Shalom. Okay, we almost done. I just wanted to finish this whole eye section and keep it all together. The same teaching of the eye is to be found in the ancient Egyptian story of Haru and Set. Haru was the son of Asar and a Set. Set was the brother of Asar. In Christianity, Haru would be Jesus, and Haru would be Jesus, and Set would be Satan. Matter of fact, Set didn't even change too much in the Christian translation because it changed from Set, S-E-T, to Satan, Seitin, I think, all the way to where they removed the I's and changed the E's to A's, and now it's Satan, Satan. The English language is full of magic. If people didn't know it, it's full of magic and word spells and a lot of words that sound the same but are spelled different and have different meanings. That is one of the biggest uh, that is one of the biggest ways that people are kept in bondage with the English language is through word spells and removing pictures from things to where you can actually see what's going on, right? We deal with that in a lot. So now we have to do spell breaking, right? We got to break the spells, the word spells. Okay. The same teaching of the Eye of Ra is to be found in the ancient Egyptian story of Haru and Set. Haru was the son of Asar and a Set. Set was the brother of Asar. Due to jealousy, anger, hatred, and greed, Set murdered Asar. When Haru grew up, he challenged Set over the throne of ancient Egypt. Haru represents the forces of good, and Set represents the forces of egoism, sinfulness, and negativity. Haru also represents the human spirit, which is being obstructed by Set, who represents distraction and dullness in the human mind. During the conflict, Set tore out Heru's eye. Some versions of the story tell that Set threw filth into the eyes of Heru, and this led Heru to despair, frustration, anger, and dejection. It is Jehudi, and Jehudi in Christian folklore would be the Holy Spirit, right? It is Jehudi who restored the vision of Heru through the power of magical words of power or wisdom teachings. In this context, the whole teaching of wisdom, which Jehudi applies, Haku, magic, or word chanting or words of wisdom, magic, right? To the eye, hold on. In this context, the whole teaching of wisdom, which Jehudi applies, Haku or Hekau, magic, or word magic, to the eye causes it to remember its essential nature and its glory as the eye of Heru. Upon its return, y'all so loud. Tell my babies I said hey.
I know. I'll call you back, all right?
Look, that's Bella. She must know I'm about to end this. She ain't here to end it, but she calling.
I'll call you back, all right?
Upon its return, the eye provided Heru with the strength of will he needed to overthrow Set. This story mythologizes the journey of the human soul and its eventual redemption, wherein it achieves the sublimation of the ego and attains to self-realization. And then it has an asterisk and it has ancient Egyptian book of coming forth by day. And if you look that up, you can probably put in that title and you'll find it, but it's been named wrongly and it's called the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but that's not its original nor its real name, right? It's the Book of Life or the Book of Enlightenment or the Egyptian Book of Coming Forth by day, not by night. In this aspect, the plight of the eye and its subsequent restoration through the teachings of Jehudi, the transmitter of wisdom, embodies the principle of the teacher disciple relationship through which spiritual knowledge is transmitted. We saw the same principle in the initiation of Heru by a set, and it may be found in the Gnostic Christianity with the teachings of Jesus to his disciples and the theory of Thekla, as well as in the Indian Vedanic principle of the guru disciple relationship, such as Krishna and Arjuna and Vasita and Rama. Jehudi is the master teacher who initiates the aspirant on the spiritual path of wisdom. In teaching others, the priest or priestess assumes the role of Jehudi. Jehudi is the guru of the eye. In Hinduism, this process is immortalized in the epics, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Yoga Vasita Ramayana scriptures. In these two scriptures, two aspirants are reminded of their divine essential nature by the gurus who are themselves one with the divine self, or one with the great spirit, or one with Yah. Remember, divine self is talking about the creator of all, the all light, Yah, whatever you want to call him, cosmic, universe, whatever. Gradually, they are led to realization of the self through a process which involves the classical teachings of yoga, which is wisdom, reflection, and meditation. These texts are highly recommended for any serious student of yoga's scriptures. We almost done, y'all. When Heru's eye, the moon, was torn out and thrown away by Set, the god Jehudi, who presides as the moon, see verse 8, found in it and using the formula below, turned it into the moon. When the parts of the eye of Heru are added up, gives the answer 63 by 64, which approximate the whole number 1. 1 is the number which symbolizes oneness, wholeness, all sight, all knowing, the supreme being, the absolute. As long as the soul is involved in creation, matter, there will remain some small separation between the individual Ba and the universal Ba and the one. Remember, the The Ba is the body. The Ka is the spirit. But we'll get into deeper detail when we get to the 9 eyes of light about that. As long as the soul is involved in creation, matter, there will remain some small separation between the individual Ba and the universal Ba, the One. In order to become completely unified, merged into infinity, the individual soul of the enlightened person dissolves into the universal soul at the time of death. This is complete oneness with the divine. The missing part of the eye of Haru, 1 by 64, it's like a fraction, 1/64. I'm going to just say 1 out of 64 is added by Jehudi through magic. Thus, through the magic of Jehudi, which is wisdom, the magic of Jehudi is wisdom. So they call it the magic of Jehudi, but it's wisdom, right? Thus, through the magic of Jehudi, wisdom, the parts representing our consciousness may be reconstituted to wholeness. Jehudi is an aspect of Ptah, the cosmic mind. In this aspect, Jehudi represents the higher consciousness, the mind, of those humans who are attuned to the universal cosmic mind. Thus, Jehudi speaks, quote, I came seeking the eye of Haru that I might bring it back and count it. I found it, now it is complete, counted and sound, so that it can flame up to the sky and blow above and below. End quote. Therefore, the eye, vision, consciousness of Jehudi, wisdom, the eye of Haru, inner vision, may be brought back to its original place, that it may attain the heights of heaven and achieve control over spiritual domain above and the realm of matter below. Jehudi is the God who brings ma'at, truth, righteousness, and justice. Thus, through wisdom and righteousness, our original condition may be restored. The name for the eye of Haru may be pronounced as Wijat, Ujat, or Uchat, meaning the whole or restored one, and also that which protects. In the pyramid of Unas, the eye of Jehudi is called the black eye of Haru. In the same text is said to Unas, quote, Thou hast seized the 2 eyes of Haru, the white eye and the black eye, and thou hast carried them off and set them in front of thee, and they give light to thy face. End quote. In the saga of the struggle of Haru and Set, the most central issue is the return of the eye to its rightful place in the brow of Haru. This event is synonymous with the resurrection, redemption of the soul of Asar, or soul initiate aspirant, when he was killed by Set, ignorance, pride, and ego. While the scriptures speak about 2 eyes, right and left, they are both indeed referring to the same inner spiritual vision which allows a human being to transcend the egotistic vision of life. Thus, through the restoration of spiritual vision, discovering the eye of intuitional understanding, a human being, or a Asar, is resurrected. You just heard the story of my aunt last night? Oh, that's awesome. I think I just saw your comment. I need to stop using English. Well, we living over here in Americas. Uh, uh, unless other people know the language you're gonna choose to speak, I don't know. It ain't gonna do you no good.
Right.
Huh?
Who you talking
What?
about? Who you talking to?
Dana.
Oh.
She said she need to stop using English because the English is full of word spells. That's what she was talking about. What she was referring to. But understanding it will allow you to better. Okay, so you know how. Here's what I stopped doing a little while ago. So you know how when you transitioning out the church and we got like this little piece of this paragraph left, y'all didn't want to stop. But you know how you transition out the church and then you start getting into the Hebrew roots and you start using like the Hebrew words and stuff, and then you go talk to somebody and it's like, bro, what did you just say? You're using all these Hebrew words that I don't understand. We want to let you know that we conscious and that we woke, so we're using words that other people don't understand. It's just like speaking French to somebody that speaks Spanish. It sounds foolish, right? So when I realized that, I'm like, I don't really want to do that. I understand this. they may not just yet. So you can still converse with people in their language, right? Just like different people, they'll say hello in different ways. I'd be like, Betwabu, hello. Some people say good morning. I tend to kind of want to steer away from good morning because morning is also an English word curse. Morning and morning. Like morning means two things. In English, they taught you that morning is a rising, but morning really is a going down to the depths of the earth. It really means death. There can be, that's like saying good death, not to, for those who use it. I do try to steer away from that. So, which is why I say good day. That's why I choose to say the good day, beautiful people, so, but that one was a hard one for me to break. I don't go off on people who use it, but I understand it. So I try to use the language they use. You can be trained in something and know, but when people ask you questions, that's when you can kind of just, hey, go into it. Why do you say that? Then, but you ain't got to be all super spiritual and stuff. And people don't even want to talk. Like, you know what? She get into all this conscious talk when I go talk to her. It's not even fun talking to her no more. I'm just not going to, so you don't want to destroy relationships with the wisdom you get. You can still be down to earth. And I just leave it at, okay, if somebody asks me a question, then I'll begin to explain. But I'm not just going to vomit on people all the stuff that I know. It's like, there's no point in doing that. They don't want to know it. Don't just, you don't give your pearls. And I'm just repeating what the scriptures say, right? You don't cast your pearls among swine, right? And so I just choose to keep my words. Unless people come ask me about stuff, I'm not just going to go around saying stuff. I'm just not. It's too time consuming and it's tiring, right? And nobody want to hear it anyway. The only ones that want to hear it is those who come searching for it and ask some questions, right? And so I save my words for those conversations. Okay. Let me go back. Okay, we're about done. In the saga of the struggle of Heru and Set, the most central issue is the return of the eye to its rightful place in the brow of Heru. This event is synonymous with the resurrection, redemption of the soul of Asar. Asar represents the soul, the initiate, or the aspirant. When he was killed by Set, Set representing ignorance, pride, and ego. While the scriptures speak about two eyes, right and left, they are both indeed referring to the same inner spiritual vision which allows a human being to transcend the egotistic vision of life. Thus, through the restoration of spiritual vision, discovering the eye of intuitional understanding, some people call it the third eye, right? Or your chakras, you have been enlightened, or you've opened your third eye, which is intuition. Thus, through the restoration of spiritual vision, discovering the eye of intuitional understanding, a human being or a Asar is resurrected. And this is like the last couple sentences. The ego in a human being is what leads him or her into positive or negative situations and also makes a person susceptible to either pain or pleasure, adversity or prosperity in life. The eye of intuitional vision protects one from any and all adversity and injury because once one attains intuitional vision, the light of understanding vanquishes all negative thoughts, fears, and desires in a human heart, which could lead a person to situations of pain and sorrow. It also nullifies all negativity from the outside, from people or nature, which might seek to cause harm to a person, either in thought, word, or deed. Therefore, an enlightened human being, sage, saint, is beyond the pain and sorrow of life because he or she has transcended the ego itself. And that is where we're going to pause at today. That was really good. So those, as you, what it was pretty much saying, just kind of like in a nutshell, this last part, those whose inner eye has been awakened or their spirit or their third eye has been opened, you tend to find yourself in less painful situations, right? Those things that bring pain, or you will be alerted to situations that could possibly come up because of certain things, and you will avoid it altogether, right? You won't find yourself being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or in the right place at the wrong time, right? It's just kind of like that intuition, that inner knowing just kind of leads you on, time to go, let's go, right? And so as you begin to grow and you become more sensitive, you will realize, oh snap, and you will actually begin to see with clear eyes the leading of that inner voice, or intuition, or the third eye wisdom, whatever you want to call it, the leading, guiding of Yah, because you will find yourself out of situations before it actually goes down, right? So it's kind of cool, right? Man, they just shot up the mall. Oh my gosh. I just left that store like 20 minutes ago. It's the leading, the protection, that inner voice leading and guiding you. Most people, they hear their voice, time to go, time to go. Well, let me just check out one more thing, just one more thing. Give me a minute. I'm going to keep having a conversation, running my mouth. Time to go, right? So it's time for us to go now. I'm over my time. Why is Jeremiah calling me? It's probably Josiah calling from his phone. All right, y'all. That's the boys. Okay. All right, y'all. So my kids is ringing in, and we done anyway. So let me put my page number. 114, we'll pause right here. We read a lot of pages. Well, they weren't full pages, but anyway. All right, y'all. Happy Saturday. I hope you all enjoyed the reading for today. Put my page number up here. All right, y'all. It is Saturday, May the 7th, 2022, day 102 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1120. We read the Oahspe pages 72 through page 75. And in the meditation book, we read pages 103 to page 114. All right, y'all. I hope y'all got something out of this today. Yeah, Dana, I know. She said, I'm trying to get out of the USA. You will find the same foolishness everywhere. Like you really are. You really are. Some places the weather is more beautiful. Like that's the part I would really love. But I don't know, you're gonna have to deal with the same foolishness everywhere. It's everywhere, right? The whole earth is in school, right? You go to another country, you just experience the same thing, but just from a different vantage point. Like, man, this is not really any different over here. We may not have to deal with this, but now we got to deal with this. Like, this was never a thing over there. Because here's one of my biggest things from keeping me really, I want to visit Africa. I don't really want to live there right now because I'm a gun-toting sister. You go there, you get the beautiful weather, but they ban guns. Right now, you got gangs and stuff, whatever they call gangs, and you got the people in charge. Even some of the police, they don't get to have guns, right? Like, how do you run a country? This is why Africa, some of the places in Africa is overrun with foolishness and people taking their stuff. You only allowed to have a knife. What is? I'll stay in America for a little while longer. I'm not giving up my arms. I'm sorry. I'm not. Because even all the gun confiscating and stuff that they do, get the crime off the street. Think about this legally. Like, you got people in office that I think have not really thought this through. People turning in their guns are the innocent people who got those guns to protect themselves. Do you think criminals are turning in their weapons? Ain't no criminal turning in their weapon. You get, we're doing this gun confiscation. We taking the guns, or come turn your gun in. We'll give you this kind of credit, or you get a food voucher. Give me your gun, I give you a food voucher. Like, yeah, I'm gonna act like I'm deaf today. You ain't getting my gun. You ain't getting nothing, because the criminals is not giving up their guns. The criminals actually love that the government does stuff like this. Oh, it's making it easier for them to come in and run roughshod all over you. Not. You gonna have a fight when you come this way. I'm sorry, right? You gonna have a fight. I'm not giving up my weapon, right? It's not. I know this sounds cliche. Guns don't kill people. People kill people, right? So if you got ruthless, wicked people, you always gonna have those wicked, ruthless people with guns, right? And if they got felonies and they had their gun privileges taken away, doesn't matter. They just gonna get a burner off the street. We're not giving up our weapons. I'm sorry. It's just like with magic or things of the spirit. It's not those things that these are just objects. These are tools. These are tools. What happens with that tool depends on the person who's using that tool, right? Whether they're righteous or wicked will determine the outcome that you get with the tools that they have at their disposal, right? I use my pen to write beautiful things, but I could also choose to use it to do damage, right? And then possibly you should have your fingers taken away if you're doing stuff like that. Just like you can use your fingers to type beautiful love letters and words of blessing to people. These things are weapons, right? They can be used to cure and they can be used to curse. It's the people who choose which outcome, right? It's the people. Amanda Shalom. I'm an ocean that was thinking about. Oh yeah, you going back to what we was reading. She said, I'm an ocean that was thinking I was a wave that'll preach. I've been laughing at the guns propaganda for years. Who giving up their guns? Not us and not nobody. No, we not. Sorry. All them people in the office, clearly they've been holding them seats for way too long. They have not been out on the streets of America, right? But I guarantee you one thing, now one of them giving up their guns, they walk around with armed bodyguards and stuff, and they keep ones in their desk. But you expect the little people, the ones down below, to give it up, and then y'all not even gonna protect them for real, right? You're not gonna protect them for real. No, absolutely not. But that's another conversation for another day. Let's go ahead and get out of here. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed today. Right? I know we went extra long. Yeah, an hour 46 minutes. But I really wanted to keep the hour portion together, y'all. All right. So with that being said, may y'all bless you in all that you do in your search for truth. May you grow lighter. May your spirit grow lighter. And your spirit grow more enlightened as the days pass, right? May every day be counted as a glorious day for you. Not saying that you're not going to run into any hiccups. You will, right? But remember, it's to help you grow to another level because you can't grow if there's no friction. You absolutely cannot grow if there's no friction. It can't always be day, right? Just like it can't always be night, right? The longer that the night goes on, we know we're that much closer to the daylight breaking through. All right, y'all. So that would be, with that being said, I love y'all. And I will see y'all back here Monday. Tomorrow we observe the Sabbath because of the new moon spotting, right? So see y'all back here Monday, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Bye, y'all. Thanks for hanging out.